filmmakers wanted real textures on real models shot with real light, and that's something you can do really quickly with miniatures.
The original Blade Runner was done with miniatures, and I feel like by doing the sort of sequence with miniatures, you get added nuances and realism that you would otherwise lose through VFX.
I always think of us film technicians as actually tool makers for storytellers. So we look into exactly what they're trying to convey, and then we break down what's needed in order for them to tell their story appropriately. In this case, that would have been basically playing architect. They're going to be building all of these buildings digitally and turning them into like flat pack laser cuts and all kinds of different pieces for us to assemble.
My sort of process and the work that I predominantly had to do was designing the buildings from scratch. It's also managing the previs shots where I would essentially use a program called Maya to block out the placements of every single building with the path of the camera track leading up to the LAPD building. When you're working through conceptually brainstorming in a 3D way, we would stick to sort of silhouettes and block modeling. We draw inspiration from everyday objects or inspiration from other movies.
What we need is a variety of different styles of building that look like they've been built over the series of different decades, eras, budget constraints. What we want is for the audience to inhabit an environment the same way the characters are.
It's a very dark scene with fog and lighting. The buildings need to not only fill the area, but also look a certain way and feel a certain way.
One of the big visual cues that we were given was, this place is run down and barely standing, and those who are still there are trying to make it work. One of the things we wanted was there to be a lot of digital noise on top of the building. So chuts, nurnies, and greeblies were all of the things that you just glue on the sides of these buildings. Those can be made up of all kinds of found objects that we'd either mold to replicate or just glue together and put together. One of my favorite building toppers was made out of a drill bit holder with a flashlight glued on top, and then the guts of the flashlight glued on top of those. And then we ran fiber optics through all these things to give you that ping of light.
The simplistic execution of it might surprise some audiences. The fact that they're made with almost traditional woodworking methods, and the fact that some of them aren't even fully complete, like we've got hollow or open sections out in the back.
All of the buildings are built essentially like lampshades. On the inside is just really long LED strips. All of the windows are able to be lit, but they're all blacked off with foam board and tape anywhere we didn't want light to come out. And that meant that we could change which lights are on and off without actually moving any light. If you look in, some of those windows actually have rooms behind them. And everything that was really close to camera, we built what we were referring to as parallax rooms. And we did that with little laser cut wooden boxes we'd tape to the inside of the building, and then we'd have kind of a printed background of a living room. We wanted to pop that in, so if we had to happen to fly by, you would actually see somebody's window.
We would scan the models again, so they had a kind of start and end process. Those were then handed off to essentially be used for VFX to help populate the scene a little bit more, but also as the base models to have their sort of screens and other lightings and effects slide onto them.
People were appreciating the film in isolation before they knew there were miniatures in it. Once people learned there were miniatures, they went, oh my God, of course, it looked so good. But that also means that nobody stepped out and went, oh look, miniatures. So that means that the blend was done really appropriately through the editing, through the storytelling itself. Then we were recognized through the Visual Effects Society, and the team won a Visual Effects Award for our work on this. The entire movie is just eye candy for dystopian cyberpunk future. And we just had a little part of it, and our little part of it was still great.